Greetings of the day. My name is Aarti Prabhu and I'm faculty at Department of Management Sciences, Savitribai Phule, Pune University. I'm a service professional equipped with 20 years of experience both in the hotel industry and in teaching. Here on my channel, I'm eager to share my learnings with you all. I've given my email ID and I'll be happy to hear from you. So let's begin. Today we are going to learn about services marketing. The learning outcome. By the end of the session, we will know the meaning of services, characteristics of services, the difference between goods and services, and lastly, various economic service sectors in Indian economy. What are services? A service is any act or performance that one party can offer another that is essentially intangible and does not result in the ownership of anything. Friends, let's see the keywords which are highlighted here. Services is any act. What do we mean by that? What we mean here is that a service is a human activity. It is action-oriented. It is a kind of a performance which is delivered. Services are intangible, means that they do not have a physical form, they can't be seen or they can't be touched, they can only be experienced or felt. Service does not lead to ownership of anything. Unlike in products, if we buy a product, we become the owners of that product. Whereas in services, we can only enjoy the service without any ownership of it. Isn't it? Now that we know what services are, let's quickly see what are the various services that we use in our everyday lives. I am at home, so I have a lot of people who come and help me in my household work. For example, there's a cleaning lady, there's someone who comes to cook, someone who comes to clean the car and drive me around. All these are services. On the weekend, I probably enjoy going out to the mall and do some shopping and maybe catch a good movie or probably have dinner with my folks. All these are also services. In today's day and age, we're hooked to the internet. So internet, telecom, television, DTH, all these are services. So we're surrounded with services in our daily lives as well. Isn't it? Interesting. Here are a few definitions of services. Goods are produced and services are performed. The heart of the service product is the experience of the consumer, which takes place in real time. It is the interactive process itself that creates the benefits desired by the consumer. Services are deeds, processes, and performances. Here are a couple more. Services are processes, economic activities that provide time, form, and problem-solving experiential value to the recipient. The term service is synonymous with value. A supplier has a value proposition, but a value actualization takes place during the customer's usage and the consumption process. With this, we understand the meaning and the definition of services. So friends, let's move forward to understand the service characteristics. Service characteristics are the special features which make service a unique product. So let us study all these 5 characteristics of services in detail. To begin with, intangibility. Services are intangible. Unlike a product, we cannot touch or see a service. We can only feel a service, isn't it? So if you go shopping, you see a lot of products lined up. That is tangible, animate objects, which is goods. Whereas in service, we can only feel it, isn't it? While promoting or selling a service, intangibility becomes a little more of a challenge. How so? It's so difficult to sell something which can't be seen. How will you sell it to the consumer when he can't touch it, when he can't sample it, when he can't taste it? Very difficult. In such situation, in marketing, we use a few strategies. The simplest is creating a physical evidence. Physical evidence means you create the environment in a way which is more physical, which helps you to measure the service better. To give you an example, if you go to a restaurant, how do you gauge the service of the restaurant? But yes, if you have the ambiance, the lighting, the decor, the furniture, the music, the smell, the entertainment, all of these things give physicality, physical evidence, environment in the restaurant that help us to gauge the service better, isn't it? Similarly, another example to overcome the barrier of intangible services is to create visuals by means of use of pictures. A good example would be travel agents. When travel agents are selling their product to the customers, they use colorful brochures and maybe sometimes they might do a virtual tour. So these are the factors that help you to address the intangibility, especially when you're selling and promoting a particular service. Another example is by means of association. Association would mean that you can hire a personality. For example, Amitabh Bachchan as the brand ambassador, isn't it? All the qualities that we associate with Amitabh Bachchan will automatically get also transferred to the product that he's endorsing. So that becomes association. It helps you to measure the service in a better way. Next characteristic that we touch upon is perishability. Service is a highly perishable product. A room which is vacant in a hotel for a night, unsold ticket of an airline seat, unsold ticket of a stadium for a cricket match or for a rock concert or for a cinema hall is an economic waste and we'll never recover it back. So services are perishable. We cannot really store them for delayed usage, unlike products, which means that we have to be very, very, very careful while selling and ensuring that our services are sold. Here, an important mechanism is to match the demand and supply. So your forecasting has to be very good based on which you will price your product in order to optimize your sale. So perishability. Services are highly perishable. Inseparability. Service and the person who's providing the service are closely related and they're inseparable. For example, I am a teacher, human being, and I am teaching activity. Teaching here is an activity. So if my teaching is liked by my students, I become a good teacher. So in service, the activity, the service which is rendered, and the person who's rendering the service is one. The service provider is as good as the service that he's providing. Same is not true with products. If you go to a shop and if you buy something, you buy a pair of shoes, for example, and maybe the product was good or the product was bad, doesn't matter. Will you really rate the shopkeeper who sold the product to you as good or bad? No. But in case of services, the person who's providing the services is as good or is as bad as the service that he's providing. Yes? Shall we move to the next one? The next feature characteristic of service is heterogeneity. Heterogeneity refers to the variability concept of service. Now, when we spoke about service, we spoke about service is human beings serving other human beings. Because there is a human element to serving and human element in perception when receiving service, it makes services very relative. Yes, there's always a difference in the way the service is given, and there's always a difference in the way the service is perceived. So butter chicken made by one chef and a butter chicken made by another chef might be different in taste, isn't it? Or maybe if I watch a movie, I might like it. If my friend watches a movie, she might not like it that much. That is the difference in the perception. Owing to this, there's a great level of variability or heterogeneity which is involved. Now, owing to this characteristic of service, we always find a different difficulty in standardizing the product. How do we standardize a service product? It's relatively very easy to standardize a goods, a physical product, but to standardize a service is very challenging owing to the heterogeneity. Difficulty in standardization and consistency pose huge threats. This particular heterogeneity can be overcome by establishing standard operating procedures or standard recipe, for example, for a butter chicken, which kind of will help you to standardize the product and to gain consistency in the service product, isn't it? And yes, training is also an important part of it. Okay. The next is ownership. We've spoken about ownership. Ownership is a sale of services. You don't really end up owning them. You only end up paying for the experience on delivery. So unlike in case of goods, when you buy some product, you can keep it for good. You know, you are the owner of the TV that you buy, the remote that you buy, a mobile phone or earplugs or clothes or shoes. You become the owners of those. Whereas when you speak about services, you're only paying for the experience. You don't really own the service at all. Yeah, so that's a very key difference here. The users have only an access to the service. They cannot own the service. There's no transfer of ownership. Only experience is what you really pay for. Next, an interesting one is simultaneity. Services are rendered and consumed during the same time period, which means that as soon as the customer places a request for service, it is to be delivered at the same time without any delay. The service consumer instantaneously consumes the rendered benefits, isn't it? For example, if you go to a salon, the hairdresser will cut your hair. It is done the same time. He's giving you service, you're consuming the service at the same time. You go to a bank and file for a complaint. The customer service representative is attending to you, same time. There is no delay, there is no time lag here. Simultaneity is very closely related to perishability, which is one of the characteristics that we spoke about a little bit back. Now that we know the meaning of services, let's go back and talk about the product. Product is a generic name given to any kind of item that is open for sale in the market at a profit and which satisfies the needs and wants of the customers. Okay, and a product includes goods and services both. So product is a generic term which signifies goods, which are physical goods, and also services, which are intangible services. So that's the product for you. With this, we come to the difference between goods and services. Goods are the material items that can be seen, touched, felt, and are ready for sale to the customers, whereas services refer to the human activities which are provided at a cost. Isn't it? Nature of goods is they are very tangible, whereas services are intangible. There is a transfer of ownership as far as goods are concerned, whereas in case of services, there's no such transfer of ownership. Evaluation is fairly easy for goods because they are standardized, they have certain features. It's easy for a customer to evaluate them. But owing to the intangible nature of services, it is difficult for a customer to evaluate a service. Coming to separability, goods are separate from the person who's selling it. But the same cannot be said for services. The services are as good as the person who is providing them. Variability, goods are identical, they're standardized, they're consistent. It's very easy to achieve that. Whereas services, owing to heterogeneity, are variable. They differ from person to person delivering and person to person experiencing the service. Goods can be stored for future use and they can be used a multiple number of times. Whereas services, the same does not hold true. Production and consumption is at once as far as services are concerned. Whereas in terms of goods, the production and consumption, there can be a time lag. An interesting thing here is when we talk about simultaneity, one should also think that owing to simultaneity, we achieve personalization for services because the person is rendering the service to me. Yeah, so there's a highly level of personalization as far as services are concerned. The challenge is because there is simultaneous production and consumption, volumes cannot be catered to. So if a person's cutting my hair, he can't be cutting 100 people's hair at the same time, but he can do that in manufacturing. Yeah, so services are more exclusive owing to simultaneous production and consumption. Return goods, yes. Can you return services? No, you can't. Coming to the service sector in India, we would like to actually go back here to the 1750s, to the Industrial Revolution, which took place in England in the late 18th century. That led to a lot of industrialization, a lot of factory setups, and manufacturing became the prime important sector in economy, which spread all across the world with capitalism. But in the last few decades in India, from the 80s, the services sector has seen a tremendous rise, isn't it? Everything you do is about services. Even a very traditional product like a car, which is manufacturing goods based. When you buy a car, yes, you look at the car features, what you want, but what you also look is the service, the sales service, after sales service, the customer service, spare parts are available, service sector, centers if they are close by, 24/7 service. So everything is all about services today. So let's see a few of the sectors that are engaged in services in India. The first is trade of hotels and restaurants. Second is transport by means of railways or air or road. You have storage and warehousing, logistics, communication. Telecommunication today is one of the leading communication industries. Financing, which is banking. Banking, yes, there is a core product, but it's all about service, insurance, real estate, and other business services. And lastly, community, social, and personal services, which include public administration, defense, and others. In conclusion, I'd like to wrap up today's session. I'd like to highlight our learnings for today, which included the meaning of services, characteristics of services, the difference between goods and services in the service sector in India. Before I take your leave, I'd like to show you a short takeaway video to sum up the session. So here we go. So with that, we come to the end of this session. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I like sharing it with you. Do leave your comments down and would love to hear from you. Till the next session, take care. Ciao. Bye-bye.